Hi, I am Tanya Janca, and I have been attending the Splunk Conf 20 for the past 2 days and having a blast. And a thing that I'm super interested and that I've kind of tried to talk to lots of different SOC, like security operations centers about is sending custom alerts to the SIM. So Splunk makes a SIM, a security information and event management system, and or a SIEM, depending upon who you're talking to. And basically, they have the security operations center full of security engineers and analysts looking and analyzing all these alerts and figuring out what to do with them, right? Trying to track, are there crimes happening? Are there security incidents happening? Are there operational incidents happening, etc.? And so I, as a software developer, used to have to write alerts in my custom code. And I remember, okay, so I remember the very first place I worked where they made alerts, we sent them all. Basically, every app would send an email to all of the senior people on the team, and I was one of the senior people on the team. I was a dev a long time. And within like 2 or 3 days, we had like 72 apps. So every morning I'd have 72 emails in my inbox. So then I made an Outlook rule and I put them all in a folder with the full intention of checking each of them. But then I changed the rule so it marked them as read. And then before I knew it, like I'm not looking at them at all, right? And so I went and I talked to the other team members and I said, I don't think this is working because us having it email us once a day and say, I'm up, doesn't really, like we need to know when it's down, not when it's up. And emailing us overnight once a day, I mean, it could go down during the day, right? So we would find out anywhere between, the minute we get in the morning, which could be hours from when the alert was sent, all the way until like it could be potentially 23 hours that how long we could wait to learn about it. And so he's like, this is really not super awesome. And also then we would have to notice, and I come in and I have work emails like from my boss and all the other things. And so he's like, I don't think this is very good. And they're like, this is what we've always done, which is like always a sentence that you need to watch out for. We've always done it this way. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm new and okay, I'll see how it goes. And then, of course, every time we found out that our apps had gone down, it was because a client had called us and they would say, I'm going to the website, it's not working. You know the drill. And so if a security incident happened, it was the same thing. However, I was on the dev team still. I had not moved to the security team yet. And so the security team, they didn't have a SIM, they didn't have anything. So it was not good. This was quite a while ago. And so then I asked the team, what if we had a thing that pinged each of our apps every hour, and if the ping didn't work, it emailed us and it told us which app. And it sent an email high alert to all of us. And at first everyone was like, well, that sounds like a good idea, but it sounds like a lot of work. But I talked them into it. And then it was way better. We found out very quickly when things were down. I know you're thinking once an hour, that sounds bad, but compared to never ever getting alerts at all, it was great. And so then I pondered that when I moved to security, because I'm sure that you're aware sometimes devs or any tool, it'll log stuff it's not supposed to, like sensitive stuff. And so I kind of stumbled on this topic from there. And basically, people blog sensitive things they shouldn't. So I wrote this blog article about it. And I can't believe how much that blog article resonated. And it was like logging, monitoring, and error handling and alerting. And I said, you should send your alerts to the SIM. And I have had so many security professionals argue with me about that, and devs. Devs are like, the security operations center doesn't want to see that. I'm like, yes, they do. If your app is being attacked, they want to know. And so then, like you start a thing and you didn't really mean it to be a big thing. Like that was an article in my giant Pushing Left Like a Boss blog series, which was 21 or 22 articles. And it was a really short one. It was just like, always catch your errors. You should have a global error handler. Don't give errors that tell your attackers, a lot of information so they can form better attacks, like this long list of things. And then it was like, also, if you have a security alert in your app, it should go to the SIM, like just like right at the end. Not very much. And I have fought battles about this now. And so when I was writing my book, Alice and Bob learn application security, tell everyone you know, it comes out in 2 weeks. Um, it, I put in this big thing like about what to log, what not to log, and like what we talk about when we talk about monitoring, and how you can write things in, how you can have, global error handler, potentially an API for all of your apps. But the key thing here is that it's really important that someone is getting those alerts. And if you're sending those alerts into an inbox that no one's checking, that's a disaster. And if you work somewhere and they have a security operations center and they actually have a SIM, you should be sending your security alerts there. So if the incident response team is not receiving alerts from your apps, how do they know to respond to it? I have literally, I kid you not, been alerted to security incidents at places that I worked because I had a giant online magazine ask me for a comment because, so I live in Canada, and in Canada we have a public safety department, and they watch the internet for problems, and they'll tell a company, hey, we stumbled upon this and like you're having a security incident, and they'll help them, which was really cool. We also have an internal to the government one, and it's not called public safety, it is called GC CERT. So that's Government Canada CERT, which is Cyber Incident Response Center. And a lot of countries have a CERT. And so when I worked in the government, sometimes I would be alerted by them. When I worked out of the government, sometimes public safety would be like, hey, have you seen this? And I would not have. I have had the public email me to tell me problems. I have had different like security departments that don't have to do with AppSec say, so we saw this and this looks pretty bad. And so I've always been really frustrated to find out about security incidents, not from my own apps and not from my own systems. I want to know first. Ideally, I would like to know fast enough that I could clean it up so I don't get asked for comments from the media, because that is very bad. And so the idea of being able to put stuff into the SIM means that there's humans watching it. And so quite often, if I work somewhere and I want to send things to the SIM, the first thing I need to do is go talk to the people in the Security Operations Center and say, okay, so this is an app and I'm going to send you stuff. What format do you want it in? Because I'm going to log lots of stuff and I'll send you the logs, but I can tell certain things are a problem. Like if someone's trying to log in X amount of time, if someone's trying to do this, trying to do that, like I can tell something wrong is happening, and I can trigger a security alert for you when I know for sure that there's a problem. So like, how do I send that to you? And what will it look like when you get it? And how do I train your team to know either to call me, or how do I train them so they can actually take care of it themselves? Or to know to call which software development team that made that app. And I mean, as a developer, I didn't understand. I responded to lots of security incidents. To me, it was an operations problem. And I don't know if any of you have been devs, but when I was a dev, I remember my boss saying operations first, everything else second, including projects. And that's actually what I tell my team now, which is kind of hilarious. Like I'm like, if a client is trying to pay us money, if a student is locked out of their account and they can't take their course, wherever it is, that's operations. It's always floats to the top immediately. If someone is stuck who is our customer, like we just like, whatever it is, you push it out of the way and you do that, and then you do like your project work or your other long-term deep work things. Because if we have people waiting on us for days, that is very bad. And so that's been really awesome to see, like a bunch of my staff, like if they're doing sales or whatever they're doing, the fact that they'll actually have like, oh, but this is operations, so it comes first. I'm like A+. And so for me as a dev, responding to incidents and not understanding like, oh, this is a security incident, I'm like, oh, this doesn't look very good. Looks like someone's stealing money from us, as I talked about yesterday. I'm like, oh, it's interesting. We're selling this product in this country and it says there's a 5% sales tax, but there's no 5% sales tax in that country. What account is that going into? Oh, it's one of our employees' accounts. Yeah, so the point is I want to know about what's happening before a data breach occurs. I want to know when my app is starting to be attacked, and I want to know when it's reached a situation where something very serious is happening. And so having a SIM is pretty magical. Like if you work at a place and they have this huge security operations center with lots of people. I remember when I worked at the government, like they have a huge CERT and a huge SOC that serves basically like the entire firewall around the entire Canadian government intranet. And so that's gigantor. I remember getting to go in once and I was like, don't have your mouth open, Tanya. I was just like, whoa. And you know when you see in a movie and there's a bunch of people and they're all sitting in the dark and they have like six monitors. Well, it was very bright in there, but there's a bunch of people with like 4 to 6 monitors and they're all just like doing the thing. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, and I remember they're like, "Do you want to come work here?" And I was like, "No, I'm a nerdy dev, but thank you. But can I send you alerts?" But even if all they do is contact my AppSec team so that we can respond, that's golden. Because if something's going into my emails when you're in AppSec, a thing that some people don't talk about is that there's always a zillion more devs than there are of you. Often I've been the only AppSec person, so there'll be other security people, but they do risk analysis or they're on the incident response team, etc. But I'll be the sole person, or maybe there'll be two or three of us, but usually I'm the one that can code. I'm the one that can read the attacks and be like, oh no. So I have had some AppSec team members before, but none of them have ever been able to code. Except I had one boss and she could code, but she kept having to do all the bossing stuff. And so she never could get all techie with me. And so again, I'm like the only one that can handle these things. And this results in your emails just flowing off the screen, right? Like if you're having a meeting, you can just see them just floating off because you're just getting messages from devs all the time that need help, and that's your job, is to go and hang out with them and make sure that stuff is fixed and that they have the support they need so that their software is secure. And yeah, it's easy if it just sends me an email for it to just go off the screen and me to not notice. But if the SOC calls me, that's serious business. Even just if your phone rings, if you're a nerd, sometimes I would get scared out of my desk. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? Because software developers, we don't call, we email. We Slack each other. We use Teams. We do all those things. But I'm just like, oh my God, my phone's ringing. They called me like a psychopath. I remember like jumping out of my seat. I was like, what is that? They're like, it's your phone. I'm like, it's never done that before. My boss was just like, but anyway, yeah, I would really love it if at SplunkConf next year we did a thing about like, I know that it's very operations focused and it's very like security operations focused, but I would love it if there's more like how your custom apps can be so much better managed, like from a security perspective. If we have real alerts going into a SIM and you have a SOC that understands what to do with that. I'm super obsessed with the idea of like making instant response less painful, making it faster, making it less expensive. Because if you have like a bunch of devs just running around with their heads cut off, not sure what to do, they've never had any training, they don't have good tools, like being able to use the data analysis and data visualization that they were showing yesterday and today at SplunkConf, like that, oh my gosh, that would have been such a saving grace for me and so many different security incidents. That would have been so nice. And so anyway, I feel that sometimes the different security teams don't talk to each other a lot, and I feel that the AppSec team needs to become a bit more bestie with a bit closer with the SOC team, because I think sometimes the AppSec team feels like they're all off on their own, and I would much rather, quite honestly and quite frankly, have us talk to each other, even if it's once a month, to just go over like what incidents happened and when they needed their help, or even just meeting for postmortems when there's a security incident. Because quite frankly, like either it's a giant mysterious curtain, so I've had that where I turn the incident over to them and then I never get to learn what happens ever again, or it's like, okay, Tanya, so let us know how that works out. Peace out. And then they leave, and I'm like, no, but you. So a little bit more hand in hand. I would love to see that more places, and I would love to be able to use visualization tools, like the stuff that they were showing yesterday when I went to the fraud, the missing link, and it was all about links, but like how to link different content and different basically potential fraud situations. But for me, it's usually less about fraud and more about someone trying to call my APIs when they shouldn't, try to basically brute force every single thing in your app. Those are the two main ones that I see a lot, like just bots attacking over and over again, trying to force errors, trying to see if they can get, near your database, etc. It's just, it would be really, really nice if there was a standard in our industry around this. And I've put forth a bunch of ideas in my book, Alice and Bob, tell everyone you know. But the point here is that I want us to do better security. That's usually what I'm talking about. And with that, I have gone over time, but I want to thank you for coming. I want to hope and ask that you have a great time at the rest of SplunkConf, because there's just a little bit left. And I'm going to go do that now. So thank you very much. Bye. Tanya out.